3 weeks ago, $319 million in health care cuts took effect in North Carolina. Nursing homes lost funding. Hospitals can't afford to treat Medicaid patients. Real people are being denied care. North Carolina is one of only 2 states in our country without a state budget. It's 110 days past the constitutional deadline. But Senator Phil Berger and Representative Dustin Hall, they found time to call a special session, not to fund health care, not to pass a budget, to redraw political maps so they can choose their voters instead of letting voters choose them. Let me show you how they're stealing our constitutional right to a meaningful vote and why November 2026 is when we need to take it back. This isn't about left or right. It's about right and wrong. Let me explain what gerrymandering is for folks who don't follow this stuff closely. Gerrymandering is when politicians draw voting district lines to guarantee their party wins, regardless of what voters actually want. Instead of voters choosing their representatives, representatives choose their voters. It's just cheating, plain and simple. Here's how it works. Politicians take a district where voters are split pretty evenly, maybe 55-45, could go either way. And then they redraw the lines to make it like 70-30, guaranteeing that their side wins every time. This is how they do it, by either packing opposition voters into a few districts where they win by huge margins, in essence wasting votes, or they crack opposition voters apart across many districts where there's always the minority and they can never win. What's the result? Your vote becomes meaningless. Elections are decided before you ever step into the booth. The outcome is predetermined by whoever drew the map. Now, before you conclude that your vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count, no, this only works because of the high percentage of people who don't vote at all. North Carolina has been ground zero for this. This will be our 7th congressional map since 2016. 7 maps in 9 years, not because voters changed, but because courts kept striking them down as unconstitutional. Now, to be fair, both parties have done this across America, at least when they had the power. And no matter who does it, it's wrong. But right now, North Carolina's Republicans control the process with no checks, no balances, no accountability. They're using that power this week to eliminate a competitive district in our state. On October 13th, Speaker Dustin Hall announced that they're redrawing our congressional districts, and he said the quiet part out loud. Let me quote him. President Trump earned a clear mandate from the voters of North Carolina and the rest of the country, and we intend to defend it by drawing an additional Republican seat. Did you hear that? They're not drawing districts to represent communities fairly. They're drawing districts to defend Donald Trump and guarantee their party wins. Senator Phil Berger jumped right on the bandwagon. He echoed this. They're doing everything we can to protect President Trump's agenda, which means safeguarding Republican control of Congress. Let me ask you something. When did you ever vote to eliminate competitive elections? When did you ever vote to guarantee that one party gets to control everything regardless of what voters want? You know when you voted for that? You didn't. But they're doing it anyway. And now this week, the target is the 1st congressional district. It's currently represented by Congressman Don Davis. And under that map, currently, it's competitive, right? Trump won it by 3 points, and Don Davis also won it, right? Fair. Republican won, a Democratic won, pretty fair, right? But what they're doing is they're changing it so that it's being drawn in a way where only a Republican can win it. What they're doing is surgically redesigning it. They're removing 4 counties where Don Davis has support, including Greene County, where he served as mayor. And they're adding 6 coastal counties that vote heavily Republican. The result is going to be a district that Donald Trump would have won, not by 3 points, but 11 points. A competitive seat now becomes a guaranteed Republican seat. The intent is for your vote in the district to become meaningless, a predetermined outcome. And I need to say this, Congressman Don Davis is black. He's one of only 3 black representatives in North Carolina that we send to Congress. So in a state that's 22% black, that's major underrepresentation. I don't mention this to divide us, but because it is part of a pattern throughout American history, from Jim Crow to modern gerrymandering. One of the ways that political power has been protected is by diluting minority voting power. And it's just wrong. It violates the Constitution. And whether you're black or white, rural or urban, if you believe in fairness, then you should be outraged. Because here's the truth. When they can silence black voters without any consequences, then they can silence any voters without consequence. Women, Jews, Muslims, people who don't own property, and eventually it's going to get you. This isn't just an attack on Don Davis or black voters. It's an attack on every North Carolinian who believes, and we should, that our vote should matter. They keep justifying this by claiming that Trump had a clear mandate and a massive victory. But let me give you the actual numbers. Donald Trump won the 2024 election by 1.5 percentage points. He got 49.8% of the vote, not even a majority. That's the second narrowest presidential margin in the last 60 years. By comparison, Reagan won by 18 points. LBJ won by over 20 points. Hey, Obama won by 7 points in 2008. Now, those are mandates. Trump won by less than 230,000 votes across 3 states, which were Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. That was out of 155 million votes cast. That's 0.15% determining the Electoral College. Y'all, Republicans actually lost a House seat in 2024, and they now have one of the narrowest majorities in modern history. In the Senate, they have 53 seats, which is 7 short of 60 needed to break a filibuster. This is no mandate. This is one of the closest elections in modern American history. But they're using the language of a landslide to justify rigging future elections. And here's why that matters to us. They can manufacture a mandate out of a 1.5-point victory, then they can justify anything. They can redraw any district. They can eliminate any competition. They can ignore any principle. And at any point, y'all, they can rig the system so thoroughly that our vote eventually won't matter. And so what are we going to do about it when that happens? Vote them out? Vote them out with that one vote, that gerrymandered vote that they made meaningless? While they're busy redrawing maps, let me tell you what they're not doing. North Carolina is 110 days past the constitutional deadline for passing a budget. We're one of only 2 states in America in this position. $319 million in Medicaid cuts took effect of October 1st. That means nursing homes in our community are losing funding to care for elderly residents. It means rural hospitals are struggling. They're getting paid less to treat patients. Hey, some providers are dropping out of Medicaid altogether because they lose money every time they see a patient. And if you got an elderly parent or grandparent in a nursing home, what I'm talking about affects you. If you rely on a rural hospital, this affects you. If you or your kids are on Medicaid, this affects you. Teachers haven't gotten raises. The House proposed raising starting teacher pay from $41,000 to $50,000. The Senate, they offered $510 over 2 years, y'all. Y'all, just dollars per month. Y'all, if your kids go to public school, this affects you. And since 80% of all high school graduates attend a public school, it affects all of us who rely on services like nurses and pharmacists and construction workers and farmers and grocers. Hey, Hurricane Helene caused $50 billion in damage across western North Carolina. Communities in the mountains are still devastated. The legislature appropriated $1.8 billion. That's only 3% of what was needed. And guess what they did? They moved on. If you believe in helping neighbors when disaster strikes, this should outrage us. But they found time. They made time to call a special session to redraw political maps. That tells you everything about their priorities. Healthcare can wait, teachers can wait, storm victims can wait, but protecting my political power, their political power, oh, that's urgent. This isn't conservative governance. This isn't fiscal responsibility. This is abandoning the people to serve themselves. I want to talk about what that really means, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans, as North Carolinians. Our Constitution promises equal protection under the law. It guarantees one person, one vote. The whole idea of America, the thing that separates us from monarchies and dictatorships, is that political power comes from the consent of the governed, not from politicians who rig the system, and not from maps drawn in back rooms, but from voters making free choices in fair elections. When politicians draw district lines to predetermine election outcomes, they're attacking our constitutional rights. And when they eliminate competitive districts so voters can hold them accountable, they are attacking our constitutional rights. And when they manufacture justifications for silencing opposition voters, whether black voters in the East or moderate voters in the suburbs or rural voters who disagree with the party line, they're attacking all of us. Here's what I need you to understand. If you stay silent while this happens, you're letting them get away with it. I know a lot of you have voted for Republicans your whole life. I know your parents voted Republican. You believe in limited government, fiscal responsibility, traditional values, and I respect that. But ask yourself this: is gerrymandering a conservative value? Is rigging elections so your vote doesn't matter a principle worth defending? Is protecting politicians from accountability what you signed up for? Because that's exactly what they're doing. If you keep voting for people who are dismantling your right to meaningful elections, not because you agree with it, but because that's just how you've always voted, then you're helping them do it. Edmund Burke said this centuries ago: the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. You're not a bad person for voting Republican, but if you know they're gerrymandering, if you know they're rigging the system, and you vote for them anyway, that's a choice. And choices, they have consequences. Here's what matters now. November 2026 is coming. It's the midterm elections. And it will determine whether this gerrymandering stands or whether we restore fair elections. This new map takes effect for 2026, and we can stop it. The only way we stop it, though, is by eliciting people, voting for people, electing people who will change it. Every state legislative seat matters. Every congressional seat matters. If we elect a General Assembly that will pass anti-gerrymandering reforms, we can fix this. If we elect representatives to Congress who will restore voting rights protections, we can fix this. But only if we show up. This isn't about electing Democrats for the sake of electing Democrats. This is about electing people from any party who believe voters should choose their representatives instead of the other way around. If you're a moderate Republican who's disgusted by what your party's leadership is doing, vote for someone else in the primary. If that fails, vote for a Democrat in the general. The party label matters less than the principle. If you're an independent who doesn't trust either party, I get it. But sitting this one out means letting the cheaters win. If you're a Democrat who sometimes doesn't vote in the midterms because they're not as important to you, wake up. 2026 is more important than even 2024 was. They think they've locked this down. They think they've won it because they think you won't show up. They think gerrymandering will protect them from accountability. This is our moment to prove them wrong. Here's what we need to do. 1, register to vote. Go to NorthCarolinaStateBoardOfElections.gov today. Make sure your registration is current. If you've moved, update it. 2, register everyone you know to vote, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, your church members. That's how we build power that they can't gerrymander away. 3, learn who your legislator is. Know their names. Know whether they voted for this gerrymandering bill. If they did, vote them out. The North Carolina General Assembly votes are public. 4, vote in the primary. If you're a Republican who opposes gerrymandering, primary the legislators who supported this bill. That's how we take back a party. 5, show up in November 2026. Vote in every race up and down the ballot. State legislature, judicial, Congress, local races, all of it matters. The book of Nehemiah shows us that walls can be rebuilt while we're fighting off opposition. And that's what we're doing. We're rebuilding fair elections while fighting those who want to tear them down. Proverbs 21:15 says, when justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers. They're counting on you staying home. They're counting on you to stay quiet. They're counting on you to be too cynical to care. They're counting on party loyalty mattering more than principles and people. And this is the moment we prove them wrong. Whatever maps they draw, this is what we're going to do. We're organizing in every district. We're registering voters in every county. And in November 2026, we're going to show them what happens when citizens demand their constitutional rights back. Not because I'm declaring it, but because we together are going to make it happen. North Carolina deserves better. Eastern North Carolina deserves better. The 1st Congressional District deserves better. And so we need to get to work. I'm James Gaillard. Follow me on all the outlets for updates